Originally, I was going to present this game to you in a review format, but weirdly enough, the more that I played the Skywalker Saga, the more confused and indifferent that I felt towards it. Now that's definitely going to sound a bit odd to a lot of you, and you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. Well, basically, I find myself in a really strange situation with this game, and I've rewritten this script a couple of times already at this point. However, I'll do my best to show you the game and explain my position on it. I'd imagine that many of you are already familiar with the LEGO games developed by Traveller's Tales. They've been around for quite a long time now, since 2005 in fact, when the first LEGO Star Wars game was released. Since then, we've had a lot of movie licensed LEGO games, from Marvel to Lord of the Rings to Harry Potter and many more besides. For those of you who've never really been interested in these games or, just never got around to playing one, they're essentially adventure games with some light platforming and puzzle elements. They also have varying amounts of combat depending on which game you play. They generally always follow the same structure of you playing through the story mode with limited abilities, and then after you've beat the game and unlocked some characters, going back through those levels in free play mode with new abilities to access things that you couldn't before. There's always hundreds of different characters and variants, plus an absolute plethora of stuff to unlock. On a basic level, none of this has really changed in the Skywalker Saga, but at the same time, it feels like a very different video game. The game offers you the opportunity to play your way through all 9 movies and freely explore around 23 different planets, which all contain a lot of puzzles to solve and collectibles to gather. There's also space battles with loads of unlockable ships and some very cinematic boss battles throughout the story. During the story missions themselves, you'll be smashing LEGO objects for studs, engaging in ranged and melee combat with your enemies, piloting vehicles, and doing a decent amount of platforming. As you play through the game, completing levels, solving puzzles, and beating challenges, you'll be rewarded with Kyber bricks. The bricks can be spent on various skill trees in the menus that can power up and improve the capabilities of characters that fall into those categories. Kylo Ren would be under the Sith category and Luke would be under Jedi, for example. And some characters can fit into multiple categories and have a ton of variants to unlock, each with their own skills. So now this is where things get a little bit weird. I've been a huge fan of the LEGO games since the very first Star Wars game in 2005, the one I mentioned earlier. I've played almost all of the games in the series except one of the DC ones, I think, and the Disney Incredibles one. Other than those, I've played them all and got 100% completion on most of them as well, so suffice to say, I know the games very well indeed. My favourite has always been the 2 Harry Potter based ones that you can now get in a single collection, by the way, followed by probably the first Marvel Superheroes one, and although it's not a movie licensed one, I really like Lego City Undercover as well. Now, if you've played any of these LEGO games, you'll know that they can sometimes be a little bit clunky, unwieldy, or even buggy in some cases. The combat is usually very simplistic and frankly not very good, and when you need to control 2 characters, the second character will occasionally just refuse to do what you need them to do. So I guess, long story short, they were always a bit basic, but they got better over time. This leads us nicely to the Skywalker Saga, and my god, as LEGO games go, this one has undergone a massive overhaul in almost every conceivable way. The graphics are far more detailed than they've ever been, the combat feels so much more fluid, and the world is absolutely massive, and all of the underlying systems have been reworked and streamlined. This just has to be one of the best LEGO games that they've ever put out, and it's probably one of the best Star Wars games to ever be released as well. The thing is though, I don't really like it, and I kinda hate myself for it. I was really excited to play this, and after completing maybe 4 of the 9 movies, I just didn't want to play it anymore. I pushed through to the end, I did beat all 9 films, and I did a little bit of the open world stuff, but then I just turned it off and never went back. It's been a couple of weeks now, and I think that I've finally been able to figure it out in my head, what went wrong for me. So as I said, it's probably one of the best LEGO games ever made, and by the way, I still stand by that even though I didn't personally enjoy it. However, it's been improved so much that it just kind of doesn't feel like a LEGO game anymore. This feels like a proper hack and slash action adventure game now, and that's not really what LEGO games are or have been in the past. This doesn't feel like a LEGO game with a Star Wars skin. It feels like a full-on Star Wars game that has a LEGO skin, but none of what makes those games special. So what ended up happening is that the game didn't feel right to me as I was playing through it, and as someone who, really doesn't care for Star Wars that much but loves the older LEGO games, it just fell kind of flat. And you guys know I'm not one of those people that says, oh, I didn't like this game, so it's bad, don't buy it. Like, that's not me, and I will absolutely agree with anybody who says this is a great game, because, I have eyes, I can see that it's a great game. It just isn't what I personally wanted, and that's fine, it happens. I mean, this is a recommendation video after all. I'm literally recommending it to you because I think it's a great Star Wars game. It just didn't really fit into the LEGO framework enough for me. I mean, it is all there, it's just different and kind of better. But the problem is, I didn't really want better from a LEGO game, I wanted a LEGO game. The evolution of a video game series is generally a pretty good thing. Take Elden Ring for example, which took the lessons learned from all of the other Soulsborne games and created something very special. In that case, it really worked for me. I was worried about the move to an open world at first, but it turned out to be amazing. The Skywalker Saga has definitely improved the LEGO formula dramatically, but in this specific instance, it just doesn't work for me. The older you get, the more often this kind of thing is going to happen. I mean, how many of you loved a certain band 15 years ago but you just aren't into their latest stuff? Or perhaps there's a movie franchise that's just left you behind. In fact, to be honest, the Star Wars movies themselves are a great example of that. I'm kinda indifferent to the Star Wars movies. I like the original trilogy the best, but I don't hate the prequels or the sequels really. In fact, I might actually get some flack for this, but just being completely honest, I think I prefer the sequels over the prequels just slightly. I actually really liked Kylo Ren in the new movies, and I have no idea why, I just thought he was kinda cool. That said, do remember, I'm not really a Star Wars fan, so my opinion on it shouldn't really be taken too seriously. This video has become a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, but the long and short of it is that I think this game's a massive improvement over previous LEGO titles in virtually every way. They look great, they play well, and they have a lot of content for you to chew on. Ultimately, I ended up being disappointed by the Skywalker Saga, and that's simply because it didn't line up with my expectations, and that's on me. Regardless of how I feel though, the game itself is very well done. I think that if you're a fan of the LEGO games in general, then you really do owe it to yourself to at least give this one a try if you haven't already. Just be aware that like me, you may feel like the magic is somewhat missing. If you enjoyed the video, I really hope you'll consider subscribing, and if you like what I do and want to help support the channel, please check out the first link in the video description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.